Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We're glad you are here, and just by showing up, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I'm pleased to present two people whom you may not have heard of, but you surely will recognize a lot of their work. I promise you will leave smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones, and ask questions of our speakers. And folks, this is really important. Please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not do this for free. Special thanks to MedJet, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Tennessee Brew Works, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Keith Thomas. Keith is a Grammy-winning music producer and songwriter renowned for his contributions to the music industry. He has received multiple Dove Awards and 2 Academy Award nominations, won an Oscar for Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas, and earned a nomination for Whatever You Imagine from the Pagemaster. His career includes over 100 million albums sold and more than 40 #1 singles, working with iconic artists such as Whitney Houston, Amy Grant, Vanessa Williams, Barbra Streisand, and Selena, among others. One of Keith's most notable achievements is writing and producing Selena's hit, If I Could Fall in Love, which sold 85 million copies worldwide. His collaboration with Amy Grant on Heart in Motion earned Grammy nominations, including Album of the Year, with hits like Baby Baby and Save the Best for Last, solidifying his legacy. Keith has also made significant contributions to Facebook's Sound Collection, where his work features in videos with over 8 billion views globally. His latest endeavor, called Sanctuary Media Labs, created in partnership with Houston Methodist Medical Hospital, focuses on immersive music therapy for anxiety, pain management, and stroke recovery. Welcome, Keith. It is an honor and privilege to have you with us today.
Thank you, Tom.
And joining Keith as our featured guest today is Melissa Core-Caballo. She is CEO of Dead Horse Branding and is a visionary entrepreneur who defied the odds to build a multi-million-dollar company from the ground up. Growing up in a caravan on the south coast of Australia, Melissa's journey has been shaped by resilience and determination. At 24, she moved to the U.S. with just a suitcase and driven by a dream to create a life of her own. Her expertise spans every niche of the industry, making her a force in delivering strong sales and unforgettable brands. Since founding Dead Horse Branding in 2013, she's developed the DH7 formula, a simple yet highly effective branding guide that has proven successful across industry, from artist development to startup companies. Melissa is also pioneering a global educational initiative integrating DH7 into music business programs such as the Joel Katz Music Business Program at Kennesaw State University. She has a roster of stellar clients, including the legendary Hall of Fame music producer Tony Brown, Chingy, Bo Diddley Estate, Robert's Western World, Who Let the Dogs Out by Baha Men, Grammy Award-winning O'Connor Band, and Steven Tyler's band Loving Mary. It is my pleasure to welcome these two rock stars to our platform finally. Take it away, guys.
Hi.
Wow.
Hey, Keith, you made it.
Hey, you're a pretty big deal.
Hey, no, not as big as you. But I mean, I think it's pretty fitting to start off with you were kind of stuck outside Zoom, just like you were stuck in Alabama through COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. That's funny.
I mean,
Well,
right?
right. Yeah. The thing is, you know, First of all, I want to say thank you again to Tom for having us do this. This is so much fun to get to do this. There are certain things, I've made a list of things here, questions I want to ask you, just to make sure people know who you are, because it's pretty remarkable what you've been able to accomplish coming from Australia. And so I want to get into some of that stuff. But, we got to know each other through a Brett Manning panel that we did together. Remember that?
I do.
I remember this huge this long table. I was sitting on one end and you were sitting on the other. And I remember after, he would ask questions, you would comment and I'd say, yeah, exactly what she said. So, but that's kind of where we met. We kind of, figured out we could be partners, we could be buddies, and so we've been working together ever since. And I just, I love what you do. I love your energy. You're one of the hardest working people that I know in this business. So, my first question to you, as we get down on this list, is what is Dead Horse? Where did the name Dead Horse come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's like, stop beating a dead horse, stop hitting your head up against something that's not going to work. Let us give you, it's that, but then it's also the fact that before we launched Dead Horse, we launched a fashion line called Core-Caballo. And it did so well in the US and online. It got inducted in the Tennessee State Museum. And our signature design was called the Dead Horse. And it was essentially Rick, the co-founder of Dead Horse's artistry logo. That was this big Da Vinci, multiple layered thing that he'd stripped back to the bare bones. And the t-shirt, like Mick Jagger was wearing it, Steven Tyler was wearing it. People were trying to buy this shirt from all around the world. And so when we created the branding company, it was kind of this double-edged sort of, you start with the bare bones of something, stop beating a dead horse. And then I just thought, stick in people's minds.
Love it. Okay. Well, this is something no one will know about you for sure, but from a trailer park to a global brand, what gave you the incentive to actually say, I'm going to move to America and chase that dream? What made you do that, and what were some of the obstacles you faced?
Yeah, gosh, looking back, I wanted to get to America since probably I was 8 or 9, and I used to consistently watch MTV music videos. And I wanted to be a dancer, a professional dancer. And I knew by the age of about 9 or 10 that all these artists that I loved were from America. And I was like, oh, I need to get to America. I need to get to America. And I just kind of had it in there that that's where you go to do those big things. And that's where all the big artists sort of came from. And then as I got a bit older, I was like, well, I'll do Australia first. And then I proved myself right. It's like, I need to get to America. They know what they're doing there. And
Right.
it just became a huge mission. A lot of my friends in high school, like, man, you said you want to move to America when you're like 12 and 13. And I was like, yeah. And you know what? For me, when you start from a foundation of not a lot, you've got nothing to lose. Right? I had nothing to lose. I had everything but ambition, everything but drive and force. And so I didn't know any different.
Right.
That's all I set my eyes on.
Wow. Amazing. Well, you've been incredibly successful. You've built a multi-million-dollar empire here. What would be some of the challenges or obstacles you faced when you came here? Because you're from a different country, you're setting yourself up. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is being a foreigner, like the visa process. I had some of the best people working on our visas, my visas, from the age of like 20, because I first came here at 20, and I had a dance troupe, and I was working in the music business a little bit, and I was on a temp visa. But to try and get that full-time visa, that O1, it took me 3.5 years to build a portfolio that would check all the boxes for American immigration to go, okay, you've done enough, you've got enough credibility, we'll let you in. And it took a really long time. I mean, that kind of shows you how dedicated someone would be, or little me was. Before you could even step foot here and work, you had to build this portfolio. And I get a little bit headstrong, maybe.
Really?
And when
You?
I want, it's the same with clients. If I want them to achieve something, I'm going to go just as hard as I did with that visa.
Right. Yeah.
And even staying here, when you're on that O1 or any visa except the green card, you're continuously having to prove to the US government that you're worthy of staying. And that's by financial statements, tax records, portfolio press. I mean, you name it. So being on that hamster wheel for, gosh, 12 years,
Right.
and then finally getting the green card was But it's,
Pretty
I mean,
special.
country's the same, all of them have immigration hurdles, but it is just a struggle. And I remember I'd met someone here
Sorry.
who was actually Mexican, right? And I'm going to tell you some things on this that I've never told anyone. He was Mexican, and he was but American, right? American
Right.
born,
Right.
still Mexican heritage. He was kind of explaining to me like how hard it is for him, and he's got to work twice as hard, and because of the stigma behind obviously certain different types of cultures in different places. And I was listening and listening. I was like, just thinking how funny it is that he's looking at me, not understanding that I have to work 3 times as hard.
Mm. Mm.
And that's an Australian culture. And it kind of clicked for me. I was like, wow, we all kind of look at things very interesting through our own eyes every now and again. And I was like, as much as I understand what you're saying, I'm actually lower than you.
Mm. Wow.
Where you see yourself, not technically lower, as in I don't think he was low at all, but from where he had positioned himself, I'm like, oh honey, I'm way down there.
Wow. And and that the industry is so hard anyway. It's like that's having to deal with that stuff aside from having to develop artists and all the stuff that you guys do, and dealing with that's got to be another. I mean, it's just a headache. But you did it, and you're
Yeah.
here. So, I was thinking the other day. Uh, Sometimes I'll call you on the weekend, and you'll go, "I'm in mommy mode," and that's code for me to go, "Don't bug me," right? But I love that because, look, I had a similar situation when my boys were coming up. I'd coach soccer and baseball and all that stuff, and those were the best memories that I have of them. But tell us about how you manage the CEO part versus the mom part, because I know how important that is to you.
Yeah, and my short answer is you don't. Like,
Yeah,
whatever plan you have, and this, whatever you plan you have is technically out of the window an hour after it. But there are definitely things I put in place to help minimize that as being a working mom and an entrepreneurial mom. Because just like you, Keith, people like us, those entrepreneurial spirits, they'll choose to work 80 hours for themselves as opposed to 40 hours for someone else.
right.
And so you are constantly working a lot more, but it is things like putting on our team calendar, like, okay, Mel's out of the office from here, I'm picking up from school, I've got gym or whatever we've got. It is learning to say no to yourself.
Right.
That is the biggest thing for a working dad, for a working mom. It's learning to say, no, that can wait. I need to focus and put time here. And, when we got stuck in Australia through COVID, that was insane because the balance was so off and she was so little. And Rick and I were up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., pretending we were still in the US on the time zone.
Right.
And that was nuts. And there was no kind of balance you could get, right? It was just
Right.
crazy. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think,
I
yeah.
thought you were never coming home. I was like beginning to get worried.
Yeah, I think Tony was the same. Like, I'd call and be like, so is the green card in? I'm like, no, but I saw another kangaroo.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of kangaroos, I went to Australia to make I Want to Be With You from Mandy Moore. And the whole time there, all we wanted to do was see a kangaroo. So the
Where'd
last
you go?
day, we were in Melbourne, but the last day we drove to 12 Apostles. And unfortunately, the only kangaroo we saw was a dead one on the side of the road. So we got out and looked at it, but it was like We didn't see any kangaroos while we were there.
Oh
So
gosh. Okay, but hang on. We need to decide. We need to decide. You can't just say Mandy Moore and then go off. So, okay. So there are some things for you. So obviously Keith Thomas, phenomenal songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist, gosh, musical composer. I mean, I was just actually before that, I was just looking back through some of your accolades. And I mean, you really helped build and compile that whole Facebook music catalog. I don't think a lot of people know that, as opposed to some of the Mandy Moore stuff. How did that even come about?
well, I got my friend, or actually my partner, Lauren Baldwin, called me one day and said, "Hey, would you have any interest in building a library for Facebook?" And I initially said no, but then we started talking about it and how, the Facebook has 3 billion subscribers or users, right? So I'm going, well, what a huge audience that is. So I agreed to do it. We started doing these tracks on the domestic side. And then Lauren had the idea to go to make this thing international. So we became their largest international provider. I went to India twice, ended up on the national Indian paper there with all these artists that I was working with. And we delivered music from like Japan, Africa, Middle East, all these different places in their native languages, which was so much fun. But I'm in the studio in India, in Calcutta, with these guys. So I would take tracks over and, I would sing I guess the English lyric, and then they would translate it on the spot, and then we'd go in and record that. But that became a huge thing. And I mean, that was life-changing for me because I got to spend, the first time I went, I think we cut like 20 something tracks, 28 tracks. The second time was over 30. But just to experience that culture, and I met some incredible people and have some incredible relationships now from that. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. But from like 22 to 24, just on my domestic side, I have like over 8 billion views, which is nuts when you think about it. I get emails from people from all over the world going, "Hey, here's the video I used your music in." So, that's kind of a fun thing. So I'm so happy I did it.
Well, I remember when you're telling me about it, and I was like, "What is he doing? And why are you in India?" And I'd actually lived in India for like 4 months when I was
I
18.
didn't know that.
Yeah, my first professional dance contract. It's when the tsunami hit. It's a bit of a shit show. It was,
Wow.
yeah, very intense, but such an interesting culture. But I remember when you said you were there, and I was like, "What? What is it?"
Yeah, so if you're on Snapchat, Reels, Instagram, Facebook, and if you need music for your cat video, you can just use it for free.
Did you making the sounds?
And it's funny because I've seen myself. I've watched the charts on that stuff, and I've seen myself at the #1 spot there, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool, But and the funny thing about that is no one really marketed that. It's just it's the internal dashboard, So they just put it out there, and people chose to use that music on their own, which I think is fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
but
All right, jumping back to Mandy Moore. So getting back to how I was telling you, I was just watching music videos after music videos, America, America. I mean, Mandy Moore was obviously definitely in that loop cycle as I got a bit older. So how I don't even know how that happened.
Well, I had just left Sony. I was at Sony for over a decade as a writer and producer, but then they called me to do Mandy Moore, and it almost didn't happen because I used to have a horrible fear of flying. And so the only way I could get this vocal on Mandy was to fly to Melbourne, and that's a 14-hour flight. And I'm like, that's all I was thinking about. How am I going to survive that flight? So Bill Whittington, Sean Schenkel, my assistant at the time, we all flew over. And, Sony put me, I didn't know this at the time until I got on the plane, but Sony put me in first class, which, I'm glad they did, but I would have never flown first class with my team in coach or business class, whatever they were. But anyway, I survived it. I got there, and it actually cured my fear of flying. So we did her vocal there, and like I said, we went to the 12 Apostles on our last day there. So man, what a great trip! It was so much fun. But I fly everywhere now, so it's amazing what that does.
For Australia conquered you.
It did. It did. It's like I'm. Where were you during that period? Let's see. That was what? Good Lord, that was 2000 maybe, or
So
2001. 2001 or 2002, I think.
I would have just been leaving school because I told school that I'm useless there and they need to let me go, and coming to America.
Wow.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All
That
right.
would, you were probably coming over this way and I was going over that way.
I guess so, right? Okay. Anyway, all right. So let's get back to you. Talk about you built this crazy empire here from over there, actually. So DH7. Um, Talk about how that you got that integrated into Kennesaw State University's music business program. Talk about that and what is that?
Yeah. So the 7 primary branding formulas that if you've met me or see me anywhere, I harp on about all the time. And Keith, you know, I talk about them all the time. Basically the 7 formulas that we do. I
Right.
was like, man, this would be incredible if it could get into the education system. Imagine what we could do and how we could change the perspective and the brand building and the sales process of artists, music business professionals, pretty much specifically, if they had this knowledge now and didn't have to wait until they graduated or they came out to try and spend 5-10 years figuring it out on their own. So I pitched it over to Lou Hayden, who's our business manager. And I was like, what can I do with this? Like, education, not really my thing, school dropout. Like, what do you think? And he's like, I think it's really cool. And I think I know where to put it. So he pitched us over to Kennesaw, which is run by Danny Howes and Keith Parisi over there. And they're incredible. And they loved it. And they actually picked it up sort of the next semester. And we lectured it for the first time from Australia.
Really?
On the American time zone. And we've been with them for about, gosh, it's been about 4 years now. And we became 25% of their curriculum 3 years ago.
Wow.
And it's just so awesome to see the students get it. And they
Yeah.
hypothetically, you know, all the brand building we do, they hypothetically do it in class. So they like team up and then they pick an artist that's kind of out there in the world. And then we build them through all formulas from the ground up. And at the end, they have this kind of this brand plan on this artistry and on this talent that they've learned how to build a talent. And they've also learned how to build themselves. Getting double. So
That's
I've been
amazing.
excited to lecture it at Belmont, MTSU, Music New South Wales in Australia. We did master classes, but I'm really passionate about it. And
Wow.
you've been on the panel, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but wasn't Joel Katz involved in that originally? Was he part of that or no?
But it was, rest in peace, it was his
Right.
music business and entertainment program, which it still is. He was very much involved from a top level, but Danny and Keith run it. But you know, he would always be across whatever crazy ideas and their training methods they have, and they get to go over to Abbey Road and take their students over to London. Yeah. But I mean, Joel wasn't necessarily in there teaching every day or anything.
Oh, I'm sure of that. No, but look, I
You know,
hate that he's not with us anymore. Yeah, Joel represented me back in the day, and twice tried to talk me into going inside, which I refused to do. But there are times that I've gone, man, I should have listened to Joel. I should have gone inside. Yeah, but yeah, so that's interesting. I knew that he was part of that, but that's a big deal actually that you were able to pull that off. That's
yeah,
great.
there were different family members that were like, you can't lecture, you can't teach, you can't do
Right.
that. And I'm, why not? I mean, this is the stuff that you want to get in, you know, this is what makes the teachers go, oh, we need that industry expertise to then maybe adjust our curriculums moving forward. So I might have got a little
Wow.
headstrong on that one too.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to embarrass you, but you know, I know you used to send emails as a guy. When you first got your record deal or your first label gig, rather, you would send out emails as a guy. And what was up with that? Why did you do that?
Music business, man. Like, come on.
That says a lot about you, though. You got
Comments fly on this, okay? If comments don't fly, I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes, I was Mike Cordell. For real.
Mike.
So what I noticed, and I'm going to try real hard not to name names, I got my first record label gig in 2011 here in Nashville. And I was running sort of the A&R department, working with publishing. And it was just a small label. It had about 6 artists and maybe about, 15 writers signed. And it was apparent to me that I just wasn't getting through to people. And I was like, man, I'm not landing some of these emails and pitches and pitching the artists. Like, what's going on? What's going on? And mind you, a lot of the people I were emailing were men. And I was like, oh, what's going on? So I was like, I notice how they write back to me. They write back one sentence. I'm sending these paragraphs and beautiful related pictures. And I'm like, okay, let's try this. So I changed my email signature and it said Mike Claudel. And then it had Melissa Core as Mike's assistant because Mike didn't have a phone, but Melissa did. So if anyone called the number, it would go to, hi, this is Melissa, Mike's assistant.
You are so wrong.
And no one in the company knew I was doing it. But here's the kicker. Did people start replying to me as a dude? And even the way I changed my vocabulary and paragraphs? Absolutely, they did. It was hilarious. And I'd start to confuse myself. I'd be like, Mike in the email, Mel on the phone, Mike in the email.
Right.
And it was amazing. And then look, I kind of realized after a bit, I actually don't think it's too much of a gender thing. It's an executive thing.
Right.
When you are a high-level executive, you do not have the time to sift through paragraphs and find the pitch.
Right.
So even now that I'm not Mike Cordell anymore, I kind of teach my staff the same way, and I'm the same. I'm like, make it sweet, get to the point.
Pithy. Got to be pithy, right?
Yeah, it's on. So I actually
you ended up getting fired though over this, didn't you?
Well, it wasn't over that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they know about that still. It was because I'm too entrepreneurial.
Okay.
Exact words. And I took it as a compliment because I was trying to make change. You know, I really was trying to make change. And I'm just not someone that's going to stand by and watch things get done wrong. So that's what kicked off Dead Horse. And look, without that tenacity or aggressiveness in my personality, we wouldn't be a successful team for our clients. And I take it as a good thing.
Yeah, well, but that's how you make it in this business. You have to, you have to be assertive. You have to go to the extra mile, and you did. So I get that. But I just now that I know you as well as I do, I can totally see that. You're going to find a way around it. One way or the other. Oh my gosh. Talent.
I need to hang on. We have to go back to, well, we haven't even touched on it, and we don't have enough time to touch on everything, Keith, as well, which is so disappointing. But we're going to make it work. There aren't many producers, songwriters, necessarily in Nashville that I would have come across even 10 years ago when I met you nearly 10 years ago, that wrote songs or worked on songs that specifically resonated with me, right? Because being in Australia, I can't say that my family had George Strait on the radio, or they didn't. Yeah, Dolly, yes. Reba, yes. But there's only so much filtration that kind of happens. And being a pop girl, obviously a lot of the music I knew was being produced out of LA, New York. But you, my friend, these Amy Grant hits, I mean, baby. I mean, that was my jam. That was my thing. And do you remember? It was probably 2 years into knowing you. I reckon it had to at least been 2. And I texted you, or I think I called you, and I was like, did you wrote Baby? What? How did I miss it? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, holy
That's funny.
cow. So how did all that come about? Start off, tell me how the song came about first.
Well, I had written a song that I had Baby Baby, Ever Since the Day You Put My Heart in Motion. That's all I had, but I had the melody. I typically write with dummy lyrics. I will sing crazy phonetics as I'm writing. And so I had that track, and oddly enough, I just started to work with Vanessa Williams. And my assistant at the time was like 4 o'clock in the morning. He was dog tired. That song was actually supposed to make it on a DAT of like 8 songs that were going to Vanessa to New York, and I was going to take them there myself. And we got to New York and it wasn't on there. So that's another whole nother story. But so I played it for Amy and she loved it and said, "Can I write a lyric to this?" I said, "Of course." And so I had been working with Amy prior to that on the Lead Me On album as a programmer. And then she wrote this lyric, and that was really my first pop hit. But initially, they wanted me to be a programmer on it, and my manager, David Soderbergh at the time, said, "No, if you want this song, he's going to produce it." And so I did. And it was one of the things where we delivered the mix, and David Anderley at A&M, and no shade to him at all, he just didn't think it was a hit, and it wasn't going to be a single. So I said, "No, I feel like this is a big one." And so I pulled it and got Aretha Franklin agreed to record it. And when they found that out, they said, "Well, come back to LA and remix it." And so the rest is history after that, and it's kind of crazy. Almost didn't make the album. So
Almost didn't. Whoa. I mean,
yeah.
think about that. That's
I know, for me, it gave me a lot of confidence. That was one. I've had about 4 of those instances or circumstances where I trusted my instinct, and pushed through, just like you, and won because of that. And so it's given me a lot of confidence in that area. But I feel like I've always had this ability to pick hits and songs and that sort of thing, and that played into that. So I'm glad that worked out to my favor. But like I said, I've got 3 or 4 of those that happened that way.
And I mean, there's still some stories I don't even know about your David Foster days. I mean,
Hmm.
sort of explain a bit more about that and how you came to work with him.
Well, David, look, there's an album out there called Airplay from David Foster and Jake Graydon, which was like I wore it out completely. But early on, David was one of my, he was a mentor. I look up to him. People called me the David Foster of Christian music, which I don't know what that means. But so I get a call to work on his solo album. What was the name of that album? Now I'm blanking on that. But anyway, to get a call from him to be able to work with him in the studio, that was amazing. And that's happened to me several times on certain artists or people like that I grew up listening to, that their music was inspiration to me. And another one was James Ingram. But working with David, that was definitely one of the highlights of my career, and we became friends. And I went to New York to meet with Vanessa Williams the first time, and it's funny because the first thing she said when I walked in the room says, "You're white," and I'm like, "What? Yes, I'm white." Everybody started laughing, right? But so Ed Eckstein, who was the head of the label at the time, said he wanted Cynthia Weil to write the lyrics to the songs that I had taken up there, or the tracks that I had written. And I said, "Great." I didn't tell him this, but I didn't know who Cynthia Weil was. And when I got back to the hotel, he had faxed over this long list, like pages of her discography, and I'm like, holy crow. So I got on the phone with her, and it was embarrassed that I didn't know this, but it was like one hit after another, legendary, right? So at the end of the call, she said, "Well, honey, who do you want to produce? Who's on your list?" And I go, "James Ingram's at the top." Well, she said, "He's a dear friend of mine. I'll make an intro." So when I got home, there was a message from James on my machine. And I didn't sound like what James should sound like. So I just called her and I played it for her. She said, "Yeah, that's James, honey. That's him." So we made connection. I did his last Warner Brothers record, and we became brothers. I mean, it was like we were best friends. And it's such a weird thing to have these people that you set up and you put them on pedestals, and then you're able to work with them. I'm so grateful. He was, I mean, I would have taken a bullet for this man because he was just that We were such good friends. But those are the kind of things that happen that you don't see coming, but you're really grateful for, and you look back on, you go, wow, how did that happen?
Wow. And what a lot of people probably don't know about you as well is how much of a tech guy you are.
Mm.
Super duper tech guy. So on that note, I mean, I'm always getting text messages from you at all hours. This AI app, this new AI, like check this out. How to explain to social media, and I'm like, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
You're
right.
almost my little Google alert. I could call you my Keith alert. Um,
Well, I get bored. So, I mean, I love new technology. I've always have. I had the first 3348 digital tape machine here. I did save the best for last on that and didn't send it back. I had a synclavier, and I'm always pushing the envelope, and I want to be a life learner. And so, yeah, I do love tech. I'm actually so deep into certain things like AI and VR. I have this music therapy initiative that we've been working with the guys over at Houston Methodist for patients who are receiving cancer treatment or dialysis or pain management. You put on the VR headset and it completely transports them. And we've done 2 tests so far. And one of the pieces that I wrote for the headset put one of the patients in what's called a default mode network. I don't know how to articulate fully what that is, but the patient she was daydreaming, and they thought that was pretty impressive. So we're going back to test 5 more, but that's something I'm really proud of, and it's helping people. Music is healing. Music has powers that we're only tapping. We only tap the source, right? I mean the surface right now. So I'm looking forward to kind of following through with that. But I mean, I'm already like working in Suno with AI, and it's fast. It's crazy what it can do. My only concern about that is that people get lazy and not put in the work themselves and allow that to take over, because it's very easy to do, because all you do is prompt and you get a song. So, but yeah, I'm chasing that as well. That's why I text you all the time with all these different things going, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried this?
yeah. And I mean, a saying that we say at Dead Horse, and Rick is the one that always really says it, is, when the lights go out, do you know your craft? And I think that's a really important saying, because if you are relying on AI to write your song, or you're relying on AI to build your demo as a producer, yeah, you're going to struggle at some point when all that decides to just blow up, or not be available to you, right?
Right.
And it's an interesting world, and we encourage AI, obviously, between the creative studio here and writing and those kinds of things, but we encourage it obviously as it's the sheep and you're the shepherd. If it's the other way around, then you can tell, and 2, you still need to direct it. You need to give it its substance, for it to really come through. But
Yeah,
it's
for right now, it still needs work. You need a human in the room to be able to determine if it's good or not. But I think it's like, I just saw a podcast the other day from my favorite podcast is The Diary of a CEO. I watch it every day. But they were talking about the cognitive load, about how if we don't continue having the cognitive load, that our brain becomes so susceptible to dementia, and we need to keep the brain working. And so in other words, if we're using ChatGPT, go ahead and write it what you're thinking or what you want to say, and then just go, hey, make this better. And that's how I use it with AI and Suno. I will program something, put it in, and ask it to do. There's a feature called Cover on there, and you can prompt it to give you different styles of music or different genres. And I use that that's a tool, and I've actually used that now. I'm making a record recently. So it's how you use it, how you integrate with it, I think is important.
Yeah. And I mean, you and I love a social media chat. So, seeing this AI come into the social media land is really interesting, and that brings me back to your story about how we met. I was already intrigued by what you were talking about. And I think by the time it got to me, the question was, social media, what's the plan? What do you do? And I said, social media shouldn't have a plan. You should have a brand plan. You should have a strategy plan where the social media just becomes the outlet of that high, bigger plan. Of course, you need strategy. We build content plans and content around ideas and concepts that the brand or the artistry or the talent is obviously focusing on. But the whole thing about social media, like, if we have always been living in a musically visual world, always. There is a reason people and lines would appear at the airplanes for the Beatles and Elvis and Michael Jackson. Touching that artist it's never going to change. It's just the format and the method of it is changing. But with socials, here's where AI, like, here's where people are getting kind of jack of it through social media is about those in-between moments. In between your perfection, show me those imperfections, show me a day in the life. And we're really getting away from that with AI because everything's perfect. And that, how do you navigate that? Because you're so big on the marketing of the music, you're so big on the social media component of that. How do you feel about the organicness now mixed with a whole bunch of this AI content?
Well, I think it's out of the bag. I think at this point it's not going to go away, and we have to figure out how we play with it. I go back also to going even from photography, from film to digital. People, whenever I was going digital, people were going, "Oh, well, I wouldn't never do digital," you know. And the same thing for programming and such. Well, I haven't made that analogy before, but I think it's something that we're going to have to adjust to because it's not going away. And I think, you know, technology already has leveled the playing field to a certain degree that anyone now can make music, and it's so easy now. I mean, I feel like I could teach anyone in an hour how to make a record from drag and drop because you don't really have to be a player anymore. You don't have to be a musician. And to some degree, that's like, you know, it takes the heart and soul out of it, which that for me is what I try to avoid, because there is nothing, you know, you're missing it if you don't get into it and you're not passionate about the music side of it, because that's fulfilling to me. That's what keeps me going. That's the carrot that's always out there, you know, and it's a way of expressing how you're feeling. The whole music therapy thing for me, the piano pieces that I've been writing have brought me through a really dark time, and I go, the music is the most important part of this, and the technology obviously is getting crazy. It's like I don't even understand it. I want to know from a technical standpoint what they're doing.
Right. No, you're spot on. And you and I, you know, we've talked about this before, and it came up in what comes up in several meetings that we have. Music videos today. Are they needed? Are they a waste of space? Are they a waste of time? And I mean, I personally do not think they're a waste of time. I think the distribution method has changed. We're not discovering it on CMT. We're not discovering it on MTV. We're not discovering it there anymore. Obviously, we've been discovering it on YouTube for a while, and we're discovering it through spliced up pre-promotional and promotional content on socials. But having a visual to music, and you're so amazing at your visuals, being an ultra creative photographer, videographer, colorist, editor, you know, do you still think visuals are really important for the artist's career today and for the sonic component?
Well, I think it's more important than ever. The video has completely taken over. It's like, and there are, you know, there are fake AIs out there that you don't even know that they're fake anymore. They're so good, and that's only going to get worse or better depending on how you look at it. But the visual part of this, you know, and it's sad for me that the sad part about all of this is that you can no longer just be an artist and have your talent, which I want to get into that with you, because talent we know is not always enough. But the fact that you have to be a marketer, you just can't sing and be a performer. You've got to get up and shoot 3 videos a day for TikTok to be able to hit the algorithm, all of that stuff. I don't know. I feel sorry for these people, because during the 90s, we made music that we felt and that people were buying from, you know, you put it out on CD and people would buy it. And that's not the case anymore. You know, it's like even though the field has been leveled, it's really not. We went from the record companies being the gatekeepers down to the tech companies. And so it's a different game. So I feel sorry for the artists right now that they're having to put on so many different hats because, I feel like we're missing some great talent out there that won't get a shot. But somebody from a visual side may get a bigger shot than somebody that's really, really super talented. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's where I harp on about the brand all the time. Like, when I'm landing on your social media, when I'm landing on your website, when I'm watching you at a show, what world are you immersing me in? What brand message are you trying to have rub off on me to see whether I like it or not? And I think, like, to me, what's so interesting, and I'm just going to say it, blatantly say it, what I hate about today is that there is this misconception of pre-promotion.
Mm.
So because we have this mentality of, and it's right, we're in a fast content world, fast content, short content. Somehow that has been misconstrued with, oh, we don't need to pre-promote. We don't need the 4 to 6 week pre-promotional timeline on a track anymore, or even a 3-month track anymore, because it's just all about spitting out fast content. And it's
Right.
like, that's actually incorrect. From a psychological standpoint, it takes the consumer anywhere from 6 to 9 times to see something, a brand message, an artist, a song, a face consistently before they even decide if they're going to like, follow, share, stream, play, click, whatever.
Right.
And we see it a lot through press because the database and the reports show you that with the more press releases you spit out at a good time frame, the more click rate you're getting. So you can see the growth.
Yeah.
So I harp on all the time about pre-promotion and how you shouldn't confuse short content, quick content with the fact that it still needs to be repetitive.
Right.
It still needs to be repetitive for X amount of time. So many artists out there. And this is my big thing with you when you're working with artists, and especially when you develop these incredible talents that you find. When I'm looking after that campaign and I'm having the conversation with the artist about dropping that single, I'm like, no, we're not dropping a Keith Thomas project 7 days before it comes out. It's going to have the proper marketing and promotion behind it and the timeline that it needs. AI can change, technology can change, music can change on different platforms, but the human psychology of how we market and sell to each other, that's really not going to change.
Right. Yeah. So to my point, that the talent, and you've said this, is not enough. What advice do you have for those that are relying completely just on their talent?
Stop. Quit.
Yeah.
No.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, look, you need to understand that you're a business and your talent is the product, and so is your body and your face and your hair and your personality and whatever you're walking and talking.
Yeah.
And you have, like, being a business owner, you can't just say, I just like to email. It takes a lot more than to just email. You've got to do the books. You've got to manage the money. You've got to get the clients. You've got to manage the staff. You've got to do the office. You've got to find the office. You got to do the taxes. So, really, like you said, gone, especially today, are those talents that are just talented, because we're in an era where you do have the tools at your fingertips to get yourself seen, to grow yourself, to market yourself and brand yourself. So you really do have to have a lot more than just the talent. But look, there's always an exception to the rule, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, the talent really was what drove everything. When labels were actually investing in time and energy into the development of the artist. But now they've made it clear they're not signing talent, they're signing audiences. And so there has to be more than just the talent, because I know for a fact I signed several superstars back in the 90s that never got to see they never made it, but it's like they were incredibly gifted, talented people. And then now you add on the extra social media aspect of this, it's daunting. It really is.
It is. And like you said, it is a lot more on the artist, and it's a lot more on everyone.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a producer building a brand and you're someone that's keeping yourself out, you got to do the same shit.
Yeah, it's
You know?
it's the attention economy right now. Because whoever's got the most attention is getting the work. And for me, I never had to go out and hustle like that. But it's a different story now. It's like who's visible and who's not, and it's basically because talk about the video. That's part of it. You have to have the video. You have to be doing it so many times a day to be able to hit the algorithm, and that's kind of where
Right.
we are right now. Yeah.
But
Matter of
there's,
fact, I will. I have two acts, and I'll shamelessly plug them real quick. Beck and Call and Marissa
yeah.
Luna, and I'm developing another act out of Chicago, Sabine Sauvage. But I took two of these into a major label here, and the response was just that. One was like, "You're the best thing that's been in here in over a year, but we can't sign you because you don't meet the numbers social media wise. We need you need to get your followers up." So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah. And I have heard a really cool, should be this anyway, but an interesting change with some of those numbers recently. I'd say over the last 6 months to where, X artist has 2 million fans, B artist has 100,000. But if B artist has higher interaction and a higher growth attention rate, they're going to sign B artist over A artist who's just got the fans that are just kind of sitting there but not participating. I
Right.
mean, that's how it should be anyway.
Right, 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 right.
So I think that is encouraging for artists and talent today because, again, it's about, how many, at the end of the day, how many bums in seats can you get and how many tickets can you sell?
Right,
We've
right.
represented TikTok stars and that with over 5 million followers, but they can't sell a ticket to anything,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, for me, especially now, I don't jump into the artist development thing as quickly as I used to. First of all, you don't know who you're going to get
Mm.
until you spend enough time with them, and then it is about, to me, the work ethic. That's the most important part of it now. And if you don't have a good work ethic, you're not going to succeed. That's just, I mean, I try to encourage my artists to post 3 times a day, wake up with an alarm clock. You have to be. I can't want it more than you, and I will. I can. I mean, they're not going to outwork me. I can tell you that. So it's like
Well, and how many times have we had that conversation where we're talking about what we've done for the artist or what we're doing for the artist, and then we kind of turn it around and say, what have you done for you today?
yeah, right. I had an artist that wanted to be a songwriter, and every day I'd go, "Did you write today?" No. Well, how are you going to be a songwriter if you're not writing? One of my things is too is that artists don't realize that you have to be okay to be alone with yourself to be able to write and build that. It takes time to build art, and you've got to perfect your craft, and that takes time by yourself, learning to play that instrument, learning to sing, all these different things, aspects that come with being an artist. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you will not be successful. I don't care what kind of tools you have.
I agree. And I think that's all part of finding yourself,
Right. Exactly.
finding those messages you want to talk about or don't want to talk about, whatever that is, and then finding those fans that rally around you because they believe in the same message. I mean, it's from a brand and marketing standpoint, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
People go in groups, and if you're clever enough, you can get a little bit of group A, a little bit of group B. If you're Billie Eilish, you can smash it out of the park with all groups.
Right.
Taylor Swift, very clever. But it really is about creating that environment of, who are your fans and why do they want to come to you?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And
Yeah,
I
are
think,
they going to pay money to see you perform? That's the other side. And that's, one of the aspects I think is actually we're going to see an increase in the performance side because of AI. That's where people are going to go see real people perform. And I think that in the next, in 26, I think we'll see a boom of the performance side of things.
right. And I'm so bloody sick of that word authentic. And I run a branding agency and I hear it a lot. And you'd think that I'd be the first to go, yes, be authentic.
Right.
It's not that I'm against being authentic, but what's confusing there and what people don't tend to understand is I couldn't wake up and we're like out of bed and choose to put this on every day. Like I have a certain type of attire that we wear at Dead Horse Branding. We have a certain kind of agency, a message, a tone. But when I'm out on the weekends, I'm Miami Vice, baby. I'm like white linens, chill. You'll find me on a beanbag
Yeah.
by the pool.
Right.
Like I have a black part of my wardrobe specifically
Right.
for divorce, and it's part of me, and it's authentic, and it's something I've created with Rick. But that authentic, they're like, oh, I don't drink coffee, so it can't be in my music career. And it's like, that's no, you've got it all backwards. Be authentic, but be authentic to what you create.
Right.
You don't have to be authentic to the inner child that doesn't, like broccoli.
Right. Yeah, and I think that in itself is from artists knowing who they are and knowing what their artistry is about. I think that's important, because that's what makes a real artist. There's that thing that we've always talked about. It's the it factor or whatever that is, but that's that special thing that I look for when I'm finding, because there are so many people that can sing now. It's crazy. I'm like, it's amazing. There's some great talent out there, but can you go out and perform? Can you write a song? I mean, are you a real artist? And that's kind of that's what I look for.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's another thing too with these developing acts. They're not, in this day and age, they're not necessarily getting as much stage time before they're being heard. They are being heard through socials. They are trying things in their bedroom, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But where you still want a road dog. You still want someone that knows how to cut the space between the stage and the audience, and make that invisible gap invisible, and pull them over and pull them in. And that comes with time. And again, it comes with any talent, any creativity, even you. Like when you're working on some really cool projects right now, and you've got an animated TV series with an incredible creator and founder out of Texas, Aaron Duval. And when you're working that, like, I know you're in lockdown, you're like, Mel, don't text me, lockdown. Like, you aggressive, you go hard, you get in that mode, and then you kind of, when it's done, you back off, and then you go again.
Right.
That aggression is always going to be needed for any person that's trying to achieve or pursue anything. And if you think you can just kind of roll in and cruise with it, I mean, good luck, wish you well.
Right.
But that fiercefulness in everything that you've got to do is really important.
Right. Yeah, I have to turn my phone off sometimes. People get mad at me because they can't find me, but that's the only way, because it's so distracting. You get calls, every computer is coming through, and I'm like, no, I have to get in the zone. I've always done this, and if I'm not, then it's one of those things where I found this out years ago about myself. It's like when I start to create, when I start to write something, I get really sleepy, and I just like, I never knew what that was really, but I feel like, so I'll give into it now, and I'll lay down for like 15 minutes and wake back up, and I'm there. I think I'm just downloading. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah,
for me,
meditate.
I just have to be in a zone to be able to create. And I think a lot of artists, especially young artists, with social media and all that, the distraction is taking them out of the game, and they don't realize it.
Big time. And we're in that world too where it's, hey, I sent you an email 5 minutes ago, where are you?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, people still have meetings. We have lunch meetings, we have coffee meetings. Like, it's, no one's gonna die if you don't wait until the next day. So that fast pace, I mean, again, it just comes back to setting realistic boundaries. And for me, from a creative standpoint, like when I'm working with a client, I like to get immersed in their environment, and then I start to fire, ideas, management, projects, songs, cutting, whatever. And just having that person's energy kind of rub off on you, I think helps you, think about how you can best position them. And I have to just say, it's really hard for me to turn my phone off too, or at least just turn it all the way down. But it comes back to being able to say no to yourself so you can balance what you need to balance.
Right. I get that. Well, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what you guys are doing. I know how hard you've worked, and you know some of the clients that you have, I just adore. So I really do. And so, you know, I'm excited about some of the things that we're working on together. I don't know if we can tease any of that yet, but the duet thing, can we tease that
We tease it. The
with
children's
Tony? No, with Tony.
Tony. No, no,
Okay.
can't
Okay.
tease that. No, no. The incredible Tony Brown. No, but that's going to be amazing. And I mean, I know you've known Tony for a while, but
Yeah,
in the
Tony
last,
and I were at Word together back in the day, you know, in the 80s. And he was doing Shirley Caesar, I was doing Steve Camp and he's a vocal band, whatever. But he is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I just adore him. He's a great man.
and
Yeah,
he's one of those other rarities that, again, not all producers like yourself, songwriters like yourself, but especially producers understand the marketing needs. I mean, when I met Tony, I was like, oh my gosh, he's a branding, expert.
yeah,
He's a marketing genius. He's the one behind a lot of the ideas that would break certain artists from a visual standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, performance standpoint, collaboration standpoint. And that's a powerful gift to be such a successful producer and then have the marketing and sales brain that can push it out. And
right,
watching him comment and lead in those rooms it's incredible,
right.
um and then it's amazing when you do come across some very high level producers that just don't have that at all.
Yeah,
They're really good at making the music, but the rest of it, they're off.
right, right.
It's-
One of the last questions I had for you was what would you send one of the things that you wish, like an emerging artist, what would you tell them that you wish they knew about themselves or their talent, or what advice would you give to a new artist right now?
yeah, advice to a new artist would be, don't rush it.
Hmm,
Like, you feel like you're in this rushed, gotta hurry up world pace, but don't do that, because the time you spend on the front end getting the brand right, getting the time right, getting the message, the songs, the visuals, all that time you will save on the back end of not having to put out fires, not having to change paths, not having to pick up the pieces. So I really think it would be time and allowing the brand to be built, because at the end of the day, you can have the best kick-ass song and the best kick-ass producer, but when we're trying to
right,
pitch you for a distribution deal or to press or media, and you've got no website presence, no digital presence, no assets, no backstory, no social media, and you look amateur, well, guess what? You are amateur because you
right.
look it.
Yeah,
So, and that comes with the time. It's not necessarily that people don't want to be built well, or branded right. It's either A, they don't know the information, or B, they just rush into it. And I've
yeah,
done it. I've done it. I mean, to get myself to the US, I had to sell me. I
yeah,
had to build me and
yeah.
sell me. And that was an interesting thing. And I would have agents and I'd book more gigs than them. And so I was that person that was like, no, don't need you, just going to do it. Did it. But I realized, even though that was a part of my life, that was a creative part, and it's how I got here, because I couldn't get here any other way. I didn't have a degree.
Right,
And come on any other visa, you need a degree. And I dropped out at school at 15. So all I had was my creative at the time. But it's when I met Rick too that I really understood how to sell, and those missing pieces, those missing visual pieces that help the sell. I mean, I was probably the only 14-year-old in high school with a website back in
I believe that.
2000, whenever that was, 2000 maybe exactly.
Right,
And, and I was getting all these gigs, like, oh, this is great. And then the competitors started to come up. I was like, oh, okay, need more stuff, need videos,
Right.
need yeah, but I think that time is really important. And I think you could agree to that. It's just like the music. When you're crafting the music with someone, you've got to allow that time of the song and the production to come through, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. A lot of good stuff today.
I'll
Hey,
say,
Tom.
hey guys, I hate to cut us off, but out of respect for your time and everyone else's time, I'm afraid we've gone over time, but it was well worth it.
Oh,
Um, Keith, love hearing all these stories. Melissa, you're such an inspiration. And we didn't even get deep into that journey from, living in a van in Australia, but my God, what a great story. So thank
yeah.
you very much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom and your stories and your inspiration. To
Thank
the
you.
audience, I promised you leave more inspired than you arrived. I think we delivered on that.
Awesome.
We
Um,
hope so.
so, folks, we will see you not next week, but in 2 weeks. Enjoy a great Labor Day, and we'll see you in early September.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Tom. Thanks,
Thank you,
Keith.
Tom. Thank you so much. What an honor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.